Please join me in welcoming His Excellency Prime Minister Nuri al-Maliki.
In the name of God, the Merciful and the Beneficent, peace be on all of you. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a great pleasure for me to be here among you today, to listen to you and to answer some of your questions about the situation in Iraq today. Iraq is now the center of attention due to the circumstances it went through recently. Both the circumstances through which Iraq lived and went through during the previous regime, and also after the operation of changing the regime in Iraq. In the process, Iraq has went through a lot of suffering and change. Despite the cultural, historical heritage and the resources that Iraq has been living a poor standard of living recently. The land that used to be called the Black Land due to the two river basin, known for its plenty and cornucopia, Iraq, with the reserves of oil, has been a very poor country. That is not a surprise when the leader of the country does not match the aspirations of the people he governs. Iraq is a very ancient land, and you probably know that the first laws came from Iraq, the alphabet, and Iraq taught the world how to write. Even until very recently, Iraqi universities were lighthouses of knowledge and information.
هذا البلد الذي عرف شعبه بالتماسك والألف نغمة تعدده وتنوعه.
Iraq, through its mosaic of Kurds, Arabs, Christians and Muslims, was known for its tolerance.
ولكن السياسة التي اعتمدها النظام السابق والتي قامت على أساس.
Regrettably, the former regime, through its one-party system and the policy of division, has contributed to the the creation of divisions among the society. Politically speaking, the previous regime, through ill-conceived policies and useless adventures, through external wars, whether it is through wars with Iran or the invasion of Kuwait, or internally through the use of chemical weapons against its own people, has contributed to the turning of Iraq from a very important regional power into a marginal state. It also contributed to where the citizen loses faith in the stability and security of its own country. Not to mention the social cost of wars, the widows and the orphans. Economically speaking, there's also the large amounts of money that were uselessly spent on financing wars, as well as the massive loans that Iraq has accumulated. This was but a small glimpse into the heritage that we inherited from the previous regime, and it's very important to bear this in mind when we talk about the future of Iraq and its needs for reconstruction and investment. It is very important to point to the heritage because it determines where the needs are, politically, security, socially, and economically. It is very important to point this because the situation in Iraq now is based on a constitution that actually dispels the fears and the need for sectarianism and racism. The constitution is the first ever that Iraq knew, and through this constitution the political process is governed, where power is peacefully changed. It
الأحداث التاريخية
The
المعروفة
constitution puts an end to coups and tanks rolling in the streets to change the government. And from now on, there is no need for this. It's a new chapter in Iraq, and the constitution governs the political process. And undoubtedly, you have heard in the recent weeks the news of the provincial elections, which reflect the change, the peaceful change towards democratization in Iraq.
وسياسيا لابد
Politically speaking, we have to mend fences and to mend our relations with the international community. For more than 3 decades, Iraq's relations with the international community and international organizations, as well as with neighboring countries, have deteriorated, and we have to start changing all that.
لذلك اعتمدنا الحوار الوطني داخليا.
We had to resolve all the problems that we inherited from the previous regime and also the neighboring countries, and internationally we had to change and mend fences with the Arab, Islamic and international communities. Internally, we had to put an end to sectarianism and inner fighting, which was the source of all problems that Iraq had to face, although this is a very new phenomenon in Iraq. Iraq never knew this before.
غريب على العراق أن يقتل عراقيا بسبب انتمائه المذهبي أو القومي.
Sectarianism is a very new concept and very new experience in Iraq. It is very unusual for an Iraqi to kill another Iraqi based on his religious background. The government had to step in and put an end to all this, and put this in a way that without showing any bias towards any group in the society. We succeeded through the inner dialogue among the different groups of the society, also with the neighboring countries, and we were also successful in removing all the landmines that contributed to the destabilization of the situation inside Iraq. Socially speaking, we have to tackle the problems that were caused by the wars. We have the widows, the orphans, and the poverty that was a direct result of these wars, and also the migrants. And Australia has been very generous in opening its doors, where thousands of Iraqis have migrated to.
وكما نجحنا في إعادة الذين هجرهم الإرهاب وتنظيمات القاعدة والعصابات داخل العراق.
Also, we have the problem of the displaced and those who were forced to leave the country, internally and outside, because of terrorism or because of the oppression of the previous regime. Internally, and the service sector is very important because we have inherited a country where the infrastructure was destroyed, the services vanished, and agriculture deteriorated. The devastation that Iraq suffered put the country back 30 years, and today we are doing our best to develop the country and to start the reconstruction of all the infrastructure. Iraq is a very rich country, and we have not only the will, but we also have the resources and the wealth, the oil, the gas, and the potential for agriculture. Recently, we renegotiated with the coalition forces the presence of the coalition forces, the military presence in the country, and the security agreement had made the presence, had reviewed the presence of the coalition forces, and also put a timetable for the withdrawal from the country. We tackled head-on the big issues in Iraq, and we put an end to inner fighting, the armed militias, and sectarianism, and we managed successfully to put the weapons in the hands of the government, and only the government, and a few years ago that would have been an impossible mission. Previously, the situation in Iraq was very obscure, but now with every step we take, the situation is getting clearer. Now we are fighting sectarianism and racism, political and religious, and we are now disseminating democracy and promoting freedom, something that the country was deprived of for 3 decades.
لا يكاد يصدق في محيطه الإقليمي.
Civil liberties, political and economic liberties in Iraq are unheard of within the framework of Iraq. These freedoms were not possible 3 decades ago.
ولأول مرة في تاريخ العراق الذي انتهكت فيه كرامة العراقي وصودرت
Iraqis had their human rights and dignity violated, and now for the first time we have a Ministry of Human Rights in the country. From now on, Iraqis are going to rest assured that their dignity and human rights are preserved by their government.
والعراق الذي لم يكن يعرف معنى للانتخابات إلا التصفيق للحاكم والتأييد المطلق لأول مرة في تاريخه أصبح على صناديق الانتخاب يختلف.
Now Iraqis can have discussions and disputes about their political leader at the poll, at the voting booth, and for the first time Iraqis now can talk publicly about such political differences. These things were not known in Iraq for a very long time.
ربما كانت الانتخابات في بداياتها قد اعتمدت أساساً يقوم على
Elections have developed in Iraq. At the beginning, yes, they were based on political and religious affiliations and backgrounds, but now, with government policies, elections are now based on programs where people can actually examine the program before they vote. The recent provincial elections will pave the way for the parliamentary elections to take place later this year, and for the first time the elections at the parliament level will not be based on religious backgrounds but will be based on electoral programs.
اضطربت واهتزت الكثير من المفاهيم والمبادئ الوطنية، ولكن بجهد حكومة الوحدة الوطنية والقوى السياسية المتعاونة
We put the house in order, and new Iraq is now organized and everything is in order. National unity is now very important, where all Iraqis enjoy the same rights. The indivisibility of Iraq is very important, not allowing a chance for anyone to infiltrate, let alone undermine the national unity. National sovereignty is a big issue, and we all respect all neighboring countries and the international community, but Iraq comes first. The sovereignty of Iraq is something that we all respect within the country. We also addressed the problems of the past, particularly interference in others' affairs. In the Constitution, there is a clear mention of this, and this will not happen again. And in the same token, or by the same token, Iraq will neither be a venue for or a passage to other organizations, particularly terrorism. We have sown the seeds for democracy, and we have also educated the community that multi-party system is good for Iraq. It's good to have more than one opinion and to have differences among the Iraqis. We have strengthened the internal dialogue among the different parties of the country, as well as dialogue with the other countries, the neighboring countries, based on mutual interest. The Iraqi army is a professional army that is apolitical, does not interfere in the political affairs, in the internal affairs of neighboring countries. I must refer to an opinion that believes or says that the withdrawal of the American forces, the coalition forces, in accordance with the security agreement, would give rise or a chance to terrorism to come back again. I say no, this will not happen again, because the police and the army and the community in Iraq are all united to stop this and not allow terrorism to come back again to Iraq. This government has been successful in facing up to the phenomenon of violence, racism and discrimination and sectarian violence. This was probably a direct result of the previous regime, the military adventures and the wars. It actually strengthened the culture of violence in the country. With state building and capacity building in Iraq and the new policy that we have adopted in dealing with neighboring countries. New embassies now are being opened in Baghdad, and we have mended fences with international community organizations, and we see more organizations, more countries are willing to cooperate with Iraq. This brings us to the new stage, which is to begin the reconstruction phase in Iraq. And to compensate the Iraqis for the pain and suffering from the previous regime, ill-conceived policies, military adventures, and to reconstruct the new country, we had to make the investment environment suitable and permanent in the country. And with the new investment environment, Iraq now enjoying a higher level of security and stability. Now Iraq receives businessmen and investors far more than military and security experts. We have even enacted a new investment law that actually guarantees not only the prerequisites for investments, but also guarantees the foreign capital that comes into the country and encourages investors and businesses to come to Iraq. On our part, the government, success after success, has brought the country together, and now we are all one opinion, all one mind, that we must pay attention and turn all our attention to the reconstruction effort. Unfortunately, we have to rely on only one source to finance this reconstruction effort, which is oil and gas. However, we are using the revenue from these two sources to finance other revenue-yielding sources such as agriculture, energy, and trade.
وزيارتنا إلى أستراليا وزيارة المسؤولين العراقيين إلى مختلف دول العالم هي من أجل فتح
My visit to Australia and the visits that my members of the government take to other countries are designed to bring opportunities, open doors for investment that would help Iraq embark on its reconstruction effort. And thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. The Prime Minister has kindly agreed to answer just a couple of questions.
Your Excellency, Prime Minister, thank you for that talk. You spoke passionately about the need for foreign investments to come to Iraq and the improved investment environment. You may be aware that Australia is currently undergoing a debate around the participation of foreign investments in the resources sector in Australia, in our case, Chinese participation. I was wondering if you could comment about the need to balance in Iraq the development of the resources wealth and how it will balance between the national interest of Iraq and the people of Iraq and the immediate need for foreign investment and foreign participation in the country's resource development.
لا أبداً. نحن في العراق نفتح الباب لكل الشركات ولكل الدول الصديقة التي ترغب أن تستثمر في العراق.
We haven't started such a debate in Iraq simply because the market is so large and the needs are too many, and there is room for everyone to come and help in Iraq. The important thing is that we have to lure businesses and to attract foreign investments to Iraq. And this is either directly or through partnership with companies in Iraq. But it is, the main thing is that Iraq is moving towards a free economy. And that underpins the need for development in Iraq at the moment.
Your Excellency, Prime Minister, first of all, congratulations on you and your government's efforts over the past few years. It's actually quite remarkable, the progress that we've seen in Iraq for someone such as myself who worked in Iraq in the security area, to see you spending time with our Prime Minister expanding the economic and commercial relationship is really a remarkable demonstration of the progress you've made. My question, you mentioned the provincial elections during your speech. I'm interested to hear from you how you think, or if any, impact or effect that those provincial elections will have on the future trajectory of that progress in Iraq, both in the political sphere, economic and social and reconstruction policies.
بالتأكيد الأثر إيجابي، والنتائج التي تمخضت عنها بغض النظر عن أي طرف.
The results have been positive by any standard. The level of participation, and I say this regardless of who won and who lost, the level of participation, the discussion, and the new trends where people judge by political programs, not by religious affiliation.
لأن العراق يقوم على أساس نظام اتحادي تتوزع فيه الصلاحيات، ومجالس المحافظات بموجب القانون الجديد تحظى بدور كبير في مجال الإعمار.
I say positive because the results have put Iraq on the right track. Now the elections are but a cog in the political process of Iraq, in Iraq, and the provincial councils are now charged with the responsibility of development and reconstruction. So you can see that we are heading in the right direction. And the next parliamentary elections would probably crown this process, because it will start at the level of the councils, the provincial councils, and the top of the pyramid would be the parliament itself. And I believe that this is the right path, because the elections would, as I said, would crown the new change in the political system, where elections are based on the electoral programs, not on religious or party politics.
Final question.
Thank you very much. Prime Minister, I would like to say, first of all, welcome to Australia, to the first well and truly democratically elected Prime Minister in the history of Iraq and his government. My question to you, sir, is that what focus areas would you like to have Australia play in terms of the development of Iraq, both the private sector and also the government sector, the focus areas? I mean, there are many things that Iraq needs, and we'd like to hear from you the priorities in that area. Thank you.
أحسنت، لقد اختصرت علي السؤال. في الحقيقة المجالات كلها تحتاج إلى إعادة بناء وإعمار وتجديد.
Let me summarize again. Despite the many sectors that Iraq needs attention to, we call on Australia to help Iraq in the agriculture sector. We have to achieve food security first in Iraq, and after that we have to pay attention to the energy sector.
Well, thank you. I'm afraid that's all we have time for. Your Excellency, you've done us the great honour of coming here today to speak to us. Australians have been watching with great empathy, with fascination, and with concern, and now with some relief at the developments that have been happening in Iraq. Truly a remarkable change, very much work in progress, but a remarkable change for the positive. I wanted to say to you that you see this group here today, but what you don't know is that upstairs we have another entirely full room watching you on closed-circuit television, just as a demonstration of the interest that people have in the developments in your country. And I think these both rooms were booked out in about 1 hour after we issued the invitation. I want to thank you very much, and I guess the final word is we do hope that this is also the beginning of a beautiful friendship between Australia and Iraq. Please join me in thanking His Excellency.